Hey, Neil McDonnell here. We're going to get ready to start another week of LinkedIn Lives. I'm excited. It's our fourth week. If you don't know who I am, I'm the founder and president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and our mission is to help you understand that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. And if you follow the process, you'll achieve the success that you want. We're going to have a guest today, and I'm going to talk about him in a second, but I did want to point out, you can see my website, www.govconchamber.com down there. If you haven't visited the website, go visit it. There's a lot of free content, including my favorite one, which is a directory of small business professionals around the country from the federal side. There's over 1,000 names, numbers, and emails in there that'll help you with your research and your outreach. So definitely go take a look at it, download it, and then there's just so much content in there. I can't mention it at the moment. The second thing is, as you come on, please put your company name and core competency in there. Partly, I love to see it. Other people like to see it, and maybe there's opportunities for teaming. Robert, our guest today, he might value looking at this later and seeing who was on, so that'd be really helpful. If your name's not overly clear, I am realizing I might be having a problem here because I don't see myself on the mobile side. Can somebody chat with me and let me know whether you can see me? Give me some thumbs up. And as you're doing that, I'm going to bring in, actually, that's interesting. Robert will have to figure out how to do something else. And let me just clean something up here really quick and minimize this. Hey, Robert. Hey, I want to introduce Robert Marraro. He is from Del Mar's PTAC down in Texas. And I'm excited he's here because I'm going to hit him up with some questions I've always had about PTACs beyond the basics, right? We're going into a little bit of advanced with PTACs. But Robert, thank you very much for joining today.
My pleasure, Neil. Glad to be here. Hope everybody had a great weekend and the work week is off to a great start.
Yeah, it's exciting. Oh, this is what I love about LinkedIn Live. I get all sorts of people coming on saying, yep, 5x5s. We can see you and hear you. So that's perfect. Hey, so those of you who are on, if you've got questions for Robert about PTACs in general, or Del Mar specifically, but PTACs in general, feel free to throw them into the comments. I'm going to try to watch them and throw them his way that are out there. Thank you very much for all of you who are saying you can see me. And so, Robert, I just want to get started. This LinkedIn Live, the whole point of it is really just a conversation that people can listen to. And where I'm representing my 20 years as a business owner, I didn't really take advantage of PTACs because I didn't know anything about them until I sold my last company. And ever since I found out, I've been a huge advocate. But from a high level, can you give us an introduction of PTAC's role and, in particular, federal government contracting, why PTACs could be a valuable mentor or asset to small businesses?
Yeah, definitely. It's really cool. PTACs are kind of the best kept secret. We stand for the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and we're actually funded through, in part, a cooperative agreement with the Department of Defense. So that's where we get a majority of our funding from. So every year when your legislators in Congress are voting on the NDAA Act that helps fund the entire Department of Defense and the military budget for the next coming year, way down deep in the bill somewhere are the PTACs and the funding for the PTACs. So really there's about 300 of us across the country, 300 centers. It's been around since 1986. Our local program, the one that I'm a part of, started in 1996. We even have PTACs in Puerto Rico, Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands. So any of our territories as well. And the sole purpose, Neil, is of course, federal government contracting, but we even do state and we do local. And when we talk about local, we talk about cities and counties and school districts and housing authorities, ports, your rapid transit authorities, any type of entity that has to follow the public procurement purchasing laws, either at the state or the federal level, are really those agencies we assist with. And all PTACs are basically the same. We all receive the same training. Our mission is all the same. There may be some specific focus areas that a particular PTAC might focus on one to another that the other one doesn't. But by and large, I mean, we're all there to walk you through your ABCs and 1, 2, 3s of how you go about determining, is government contracting right for your business? Are you in a position to start doing that? And if you are, what does that look like? How do you go out? How do you find bids? How do you respond to bids? When you are putting your proposal together, how do you go about that process? And then if you're lucky enough to win the contract, board, how do you perform to the requirements of the contract, as well as how do you invoice and get paid. And then interesting.
Let me dig a little bit into those, because there's a lot in there, and it's, for me, it's an exciting thing that the PTACs are everywhere across the country, and I describe PTACs as one of the 7 mentors that a small business can have. PTACs, SBDCs, et cetera, and getting in and meeting a counselor. And today, the audience on here, it's really federal focused. So, as I ask you questions, know that I'm coming from that direction. But, one of the things you just described is this ability for PTACs in this bid phase, or understanding opportunities that might be around. And I sometimes describe PTACs as a person or a group that can make introductions locally. But how do PTAC counselors help a small business learn about new opportunities, or understand, because there's bids, which to me is more quote and product. So correct me if I'm wrong there, but then there's the world I live in, which proposals, RFP type, bigger stuff, millions and millions.
Sure.
How do you guys help there on the helping me learn about that?
Yeah, definitely. So Neil, there's a couple of different ways. Each of the PTACs have a very robust training schedule, offer a number of different topics and trainings throughout the year. And, here locally at our PTAC Center, we offer several trainings throughout the year that deal with how to find bid opportunities through what used to be known as Fed Biz Ops, which now has fallen under the umbrella of the System for Award Management, also known as SAM. And what we'll do is we'll help you try to get your mind around how do we go about looking for the bids or the solicitations, depending upon what you're chasing after, that are out there on SAM. And how can you find them in other locations as well? So, for instance, one of the other services that PTAC offers, some PTACs charge a nominal fee for it. We offer it for free. It's what we call our e-bid match service. So based on your NICS codes that you've chosen to affiliate your company with, we can actually pair you with a system that automatically generates and gives to your email box every day or every few days any new postings that come out by the government that match those NICS codes. And it just so happens that it's kind of cool because it'll catch all the federal ones, and sometimes it even catches some state and some local ones at the same time. Then the other thing too, that the other all of us PTACs offer is what's called our bid list. So what we do within our particular geographic territory that we serve, our particular PTAC serves 14 counties in the South Texas area, is we will send out to our clients every week every bid that we know about at the federal, state, and local level within our 14 county area. So all of our clients will get that notification. They can see what bids are out there that we're aware of, and that certainly cuts down time dramatically for them not to have to be spending a whole lot of time chasing down the information and being able to have it delivered to them directly.
Yeah, no, it's I think a big part of what people try to do is how can I optimize my processes, whether it's automating it or working with an organization like yours. I want to dig into some of these other things like proposals and other ways you can help. But one of the questions I have, I had myself, like frankly, I was dismissive of PTACs a little bit, and I realized how wrong I was when I had my business. I was like, oh, I'm in the mix. I know what I'm doing. And I realized that that's not a unique thing to me, be an all know-it-all kind of thing. But I've noticed that beyond the people who just start a business, who obviously are open to all sorts of people giving them advice, right? I've noticed that there's these companies, let's say in the 5, 10, even $20 million range, who are still small businesses who haven't really matured their processes too much. What they've done is had some successes with sales. There's 2 questions here that I have for you. One is, who can use PTACs? Because I heard even largest could use PTACs. And then the second thing is, how would PTACs be beneficial to companies that are, let's say, 10 to 20, 10 to $30 million range, when they feel like, we're covered, we're good to go? How could a PTAC help there?
Sure. Excellent questions, Neil. So it's real important that everybody know from the PTAC perspective, our resource partners include like your small business development centers, your SCORE chapters across the country. We work closely with the Small Business Administration. Those particular entities, their sole focus is only for small businesses. That's not the case with the PTACs. The PTACs tend to just naturally focus more on the small businesses because you don't know what you don't know. So you got to go to some resource for help. But we're actually asked to help companies that are mid-size and large size as well. So we could, and we can even help international companies if need be. Because there's the international companies wanting to do business with the government, so therefore, they need some assistance as well. So we can deal with anybody who's a brand new startup, all the way up to multi-million-dollar multinational companies. If you can think about it, we can help them.
Lockheed can come knock on your door.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I need some help, Robert. It's like
yeah.
Okay.
And it's not unheard of, that might happen. It's not very frequent because they, they're huge, and they've got huge proposal staffs. They've got huge government contracting staff, sales staff. So they've already been down a lot of the road that we typically tend to show people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know everything about everything. So we can,
but I like
help.
I like hearing this, Robert, because and for people to hear this, because look, if the larges see the value in going to PTACs, then people like me who are being a little poo-poo about it should wise up that I'm missing out on a powerful mentor, a powerful resource. You were calling resource partners. Well, you're a resource partner to the small business kind of thing. And so going back to that question, that expanded part, when you're in that range of 10 to 30 million, let's say, and maybe even thinking you're heading towards exit of the small, are there particular things, and I know I'm kind of putting you on a spot, so twist this question any way you need to be able to talk to it, but how can companies that are farther along, who don't need to know about like let's say EBIT or something, but they're farther along, how could they get value from working with a PTAC?
This world is so complex, and there's so many pieces and parts to it, Neil, that there is no normal day for us. It's we tend to focus on certain things more so than others, but I can tell you from last week, just for instance, I was dealing with everything from somebody who's trying to get signed up on a GSA schedule, all the way to somebody who's having an issue with a federal contract being into an option year renewal, and they've got a wage determination issue that they've got to deal with before they decide if they want to renew the contract. You name it, we cover it. We've dealt with, the CIOSP4 stuff, the SBIR, STTR. If it falls under the purview of government contracting, PTACs, it's their responsibility to handle it. We may not be experts in it, but that's part of the network and part of the training that we've received, where we can plug and play into these different things and get the resources to bear for whoever needs it. So specifically to your question, what happens is the conversation is very different that we'll have with a mom and pop shop that's just getting started versus a company that's either mid or large size and has already got a significant amount of business development or federal sales or marketing or business experience under their belt. But once again, it is such a large and dynamic market place and industry that even the large companies don't necessarily or are not necessarily able to keep up with all of the changes, all the regs, all the rules, the way things are moving, especially in this pandemic, post-COVID kind of world, all of that. So it's, while the more basic kinds of things may not necessarily be of interest to them, and while they may not qualify, like, for instance, the small business certification assistance that we offer, we can still help them in a variety of different ways. It just may be a much more mature, a much more developed type of conversation that we have.
Yeah, one thing I'm taking away, Robert, from what you're saying that I think is spectacular is overcoming roadblocks or hurdles. If you're a business and you're having roadblocks or hurdles, come talk with you guys, and either directly through your own experience and knowledge or through your resource partners, you'll be able to try to help address many of the challenges anybody would have. And so that becomes top to bottom. If you can't find people, maybe or find opportunities, that's EBID. And if it's something bigger, well, maybe we can get you to the PCRs or deal with this. So I'm going to tweet that out, or whatever my version of tweet is, since I don't use Twitter. This idea, if you've got a roadblock, make a quick call to your PTAC. And one of the things I want to just say to people out there who are listening, and this is a rare time where I'm speaking to a lot of people and not you, but this idea that you want to have those relationships with PTAC counselors in place now, because it'll make it so much easier to have get their help. I learned this lesson, frankly, from a contracting officer who said, hey, during the contract, just keep me up to date on what's going on. That way, if you ever have a problem with the contract, I come on that journey with you. And a PTAC counselor would love to be hearing about and participating in the successes. before you get to the roadblock, and then they're like there. So keep in mind that. Robert, I wanted to switch over to something that I've heard, but I don't fully understand how, where a PTAC can help, what level, but it's around proposals, right? I've heard that PTACs can help at various levels. In fact, my understanding is that I can just give my PTAC counselor an opportunity and point them to the customer, and they'll write and submit it for me. But that understanding might be completely wacky. So where in between, I'm not helping to, I'll do it for you, does the PTAC fall on proposals?
No, excellent question, Neil. And, certainly that's one thing we typically have to do with clients overall is to temper their expectations because, on the one hand, we are almost as if we are your unpaid consultant to walk you through this entire process, but there are limitations as to what we can do. And that has to go back to, once again, funding from the Department of Defense and how, they've given us very clear parameters in our terms and conditions about what we can and can't do. So the very first thing I want everybody to know is that when you're dealing with a PTAC client, if you ever feel as though they're not giving you the level of service or they're not answering your questions the way you would want them answered, understand there may be a reason for that. And it's not that they don't necessarily know what they're talking about. It's because we're not allowed to do certain things or to go to certain places that you might like us to, just because of the fact of how we have to run our operations to stay in the good graces of the government. So specifically, is no, Neil, we are not able to do, you give us a solicitation and then we turn in a package ready bid response that then you sit back and wait for the possibility of a contract award to roll in. However, with that being said, what we can do and what we do quite frequently is we will walk you through the solicitation or the bid, and we will help you understand what all the requirements are. So at the very least, when you're done speaking to us, your bid will never get disqualified because of non-compliance purposes. Either you did not fill out the bid correctly and keep it to 4 pages, or you did not use the Times Roman 12-point font, 1-inch margins, whatever it is that they want. And whatever your bid response needs to include. We go through that bid with a fine-tooth comb, and we will tell you specifically what you need to pay particular attention to. Now, to a certain extent, we'll talk some strategy if you'd like about, what may be your best play, how you may want to address things if you have a particular weakness that you want to try to spin or turn into a positive, however that is. We can offer limited assistance with that. But then when it comes down to it, you've got homework. You've got to sit down and actually put pen to paper and sit down and type this stuff out and get your response ready. Now, when your response is done, you can send it back to us for a review. And we'll go back through the solicitation versus what you've written, and we'll let you know whether or not you'll be disqualified for any non-compliance issues, and to let you know if there's any gaps or areas that you may need to address to make your proposal stronger. Now, it's up to you to actually submit the proposal on time to the correct proper attachments and everything signed off, which we tell you what you need, and then let the money roll, so to speak, and then wait for the determination. We always tell folks, from that perspective, you want to be at the pre-bid conference if there is one. You want to be at the bid opening. And then if for some reason you lose, you want to ask for a debriefing. Those are all within your right to do. And that is only going to make you stronger for the next time that you go out and chase after another solicitation.
No, that's perfect. So your PTACs don't write the proposal for me and get me the money. Got that. And then the other thing is, just as a reminder, in case people don't get this, don't submit your proposal 24 hours before it's due to the PTAC and say, hey, it's due tomorrow, let's get going. That's not how favor and help work. That's how employees work.
Exactly. And understand what a lot of people don't see, and that's fine, in the background behind the curtain, is that any one of me, as a procurement specialist, has 150 or more clients that we're dealing with at any one given time. Now, not all 150 are approaching us needing something at this very moment. But, understand that we've got other people emailing us, calling us, needing our time as well. So we may not be able to turn around on a dime. So, you need to don't back yourself in a corner.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, I want to look. I got some chat, and I just want to see some questions here. Somebody asked about what are the essential resources, and I think that was for us. And so we sent them our 7 Mentor podcast. You can find that in the chat. But there's a question here. Is there a pre-bid qualification or certification that offers a DUN number like link to the scope of experience required for most applications? I'm not totally following that question, so I might take it offline and try to clarify it and come back. Unless
Yeah,
that makes sense to you.
I'm kind of the same boat, Neil, but I think what they're getting at,
Yeah.
and there may be some confusion, is a DUNS number has nothing to do with anything with regard to a proposal and a bid. So if that's something you're thinking about in your mind, divorce the two right now. They're two completely separate, different things. And at the federal level, the DUNS number doesn't really mean much of anything anymore because it used to be required to get into the system for award management. It's no longer necessary as of last week because they've gone to what's called a unique entity identifier, or UEI. That is now the number you use. You no longer use your DUNS number. So that's that piece of it. But when it comes down to, trying to find your bids and look at requiring and all the rest of that, not a recommendation, but what most vendors typically tend to do is they jump to the statement of work or the performance work statement right off the bat. And if you're trying to weed through these things, that's not necessarily a bad approach. The problem is that there's more to the bid or the solicitation than just that section. So the thing is that if you decide that you want to move forward with a proposal on a bid because the performance work statement or summary or the statement of work looks good to you, understand that that is only one piece of the entire however many pages of that particular proposal. You've got to know all the other fine print as well.
Yeah, and so CM, I'm going to come back to you on these two questions because I want to make sure I understand them more, and I can talk to you later on it. I did want to ask Robert on so going with this idea of there's this proposal support, loose term, that PTACs can offer companies that go in and build relationships with their counselors and know who they are. By the way, if you haven't got in, get in, schedule it. I talked about having it long term, but if you haven't even started, just get in and have a meeting with them. And the second thing is on the UEI, which is the new DUNS, which I hate because DUNS is really easy to say and UEI is a little hard for me. I need somebody to give it a name like UE or something, and then we all adopt. But but one quick thing for everybody who's watching this or listening to it on a podcast, a replay, or YouTube, is a slip that you might be missing is get into your capability statement today and add your number in there. And the quickest way to find it is just go to, you can go to your SAM profile, but I would go to DSBS. If you go into DSBS, they now display them all, I think. And so you can find your number in there just by searching on your company. If you're not the person who runs this, just go search DSBS and somebody will put a link into here in a minute, but go to DSBS, search that. You'll find your UE number, go back to whoever is managing your capability statement and update that one thing because that'll show that you've actually been paying attention to what's changing. But I wanted to ask you about introductions, right? Is one of the things that I found valuable with PTACs in different areas when I did begin to finally realize how great you guys are, was this ability to make introductions locally. So an example is I knew PTAC counselors in Oklahoma and Tinker Air Force Base is out there, I think, and this ability to get through the gate was helpful. How should, I guess it's two combination. What level of help can I expect on introductions from a general PTAC environment? And then what would you want me to be doing before I came knocking on your door that said, hey, can you introduce me to Jane over there?
Sure. So good questions, Neil. The big thing that a lot of people automatically think when they come to a PTAC is that we have immediately at our fingertips the name, phone numbers, all the appropriate contact information for whoever it is that you want to try to find within federal government. We don't. I mean, the sheer scope and size of that is just phenomenal. I mean, Neil, to be quite honest with you, you offer the greatest resource that we as PTACs, can rely on with your list of all the different folks in your directory. That's just phenomenal. Your small business specialists and such. Now, with that being said, we would tend to, I'll be quite frank with you. We would go to a directory like yours, Neil, or we would talk to other resources we have to try to find who these people might be. I will tell you though, the government is supposed to be transparent. Okay. You may or may not agree on that. And we all have levels of issues with that. But every agency is supposed to have specifically a small business specialist, a small business liaison officer, a procurement technical, a procurement PTCO, I forget what they call them. But in any case, these people are out there, ombudsmen, that are meant to be the liaison between industry and the government. So it's a matter of just trying to find out who those people are. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to make some phone we're going to go out and do some research on a website to try to find out who those people are. Now, when it comes to trying to make the introductions, yeah, in our local areas, we may have very well those particular individuals. Like, for instance, we have the name and contact information for our local FEMA representative, because obviously natural disasters being on the coast are a big deal. So, a lot of folks want to get into the disaster registry. They want to get into the disaster contracting part of that. And so we can help facilitate the connections with that individual here at our local FEMA office that's willing to have those conversations with the vendors. But we typically tend to have them just in our local area. So if you contact me and say, I need,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
the number of somebody in Washington, D.C., well, that's no small request. That may take some time and effort to try to dig out. But when it comes to actually meeting with these people or introducing yourself, definitely what you want to do, always have your capability statement. We can help you with that as well. Put one together. Then, start. The thing is, people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. The government is no different. There's people all day long who they never hear of, they never know, they never meet. They may get their emails, they may talk to them occasionally. But the point is, you want to get on their radar. You want to establish a relationship. You want them to get to know who you are. So that way, when it does come time for a need, they're saying, we need to make sure XYZ company gets an invitation to bid, that they know that the bid is out there, and we want to see if they're able to answer the call.
Yeah, no, I did a webinar last week. It was finding, starting and building relationships that lead to federal revenue. And it's this idea of you want the relationships in place long before you ever need them. And that's perfect. So we're wrapping up here. We've got actually 3 minutes left, which is fine. I go down to the bottom, but not past. I did want to ask you kind of a two-part question just coming out of this. And Robert, the information you're sharing was super helpful to me. I'm hoping it's equally helpful to other people, because there's all this stuff I think I know about something, in this case, the PTACs, and being able to ask you a little bit of harder questions, like, where do you help on proposals or introductions? That was really good stuff. And frankly, I'm going to go back and listen to what we talked about and write down more now that I can be an audience member instead of a participant. But I had a two-part question for you. One was CM in our chat has some questions that frankly are more difficult for me than I would have expected. But if they wanted to reach out to you directly, could they reach out and ask you this question that's coming from the chat, no matter where they're at? And the second thing is, if people wanted to reach out to you, connect with you, are you open to that? And how would they do that?
Yeah, definitely. So actually, my program manager just entered a comment in the chat that if you're interested in finding the PTAC closest to you, you can go to our Association of Procurement Technical Assistance Centers. That's our professional organization. And then you can actually click on the state in the United States or the territory that you want to find your PTAC closest to. So because we have defined geographical service territories, we're not necessarily supposed to be operating outside of that. I don't mind, certainly, if people would like to contact me for a quick question. We are graded by the Department of Defense on our ability to have one-to-one counseling time. And I cannot count that unless you've actually signed a form with us that says that you want our services. So I would encourage everybody to start with your local PTAC first. If you've got something that will take maybe a couple of minutes for me to respond to, I'm more than happy to do that. You can reach me by email at rmarraro@delmar.edu, or you can certainly call me at 361-698-1025. Be more than happy to try to do what I can, or at least point you in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great one, right? Is even if it's going to be a bigger answer, saying, hey, here's probably the person who can actually help you, and that's who's local. Hey, we're down to the last minute. Robert, I just want to say thank you very much. Robert Marraro out of Del Mar PTAC. I really appreciate that. Reminding everybody else that if you haven't got that directory he talked about, and I got such great compliment there, which I appreciate, you can find that on govconchamber.com website. I'm Neil McDonnell, reminding you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. See you next time.
Take care.